This is Project XJ 2-door. Today we're going to start remediating some of the rust issues we previously identified on the outside over here. The lip on the passenger door and the quarter panel down there. Passenger door, not surprised, that does happen on these eventually. Lower quarter panel, not quite so sure what's going on down there. I'm almost thinking maybe there was some old body work and that's why I'm literally seeing a chunk just break off. Colorado vehicles, they just don't rust out like that in most cases, and everywhere else we look on here we see evidence that this is pretty clean. And that's even going to extend to the fender flare that we have to remove, and that's next. But before... Let's kick off a sort of bad news episode with a bit of good news. The good news is that when I opened the dome light assembly, an RKE board was still installed, and it even had the extra antenna wire indicating that this was the long-range model. In Chrysler parlance, RKE was short for Remote Keyless Entry, and long range means exactly what you think it does. My problem was this: no programmed remotes. Enter Mark Timberlake. Mark gets around on both Facebook groups and eBay, and possesses programming tools for this vehicle that are typically found only with locksmiths and Jeep dealers. Fortunately, this module turned out to be functional, as were a couple spare remotes I had available. Following a brief negotiation, these were sent cross-country via the Postal Service to receive testing and marital rights, and were soon returned. But I then got curious on how far they might work. Apparently, the townhouse parking lot was not wide enough to break the signal, and that's pretty good for late 1990s technology. Let's get inside the fender and see what's going on there. Now, if you're young and agile, you can get up in there pretty easily and look, but if you're not, camera on selfie mode's not bad. We can see how clean everything is up there, and we still have the original plastic inner fender lip, as well as the outer fender trim piece here. And we need to remove those bolts, and those are surprisingly clean. Again, Colorado car. Hit those with a little bit of penetrating oil just to make sure they come off nicely. This one down here is pretty small, but using a metric toolkit, I think I can get it with a 7. Now I know those of you from Salt Belt states are just screaming right now, but that came off nice. Five. Now if that's been done, this piece here should slide off, and there is a trim ring under here that supports it. One piece there, and a second piece there. These are in great condition. I'll probably repaint them just because, but they certainly don't need replacing. On most Jeeps of this age, these are getting pretty rusty typically. This here definitely needs repainting. It's badly sunburned on the clear coat. This here is a long-term problem we will need to solve. I'm pretty sure these are not supposed to be negative arch springs. They're supposed to be fairly flat. Yeah, it looks like we have one more of these little trim screws right here, or are supposed to, but it's missing. Okay, there's a plastic retainer clip there. We'll pull that next. Oh, well, might be reusable. Got the same situation over here, and yeah, look at that. This has had some repair work done in place. But I don't see any rust coming through the sheet metal on this side, so now there is a bit of a gap here that I don't think is supposed to be there. I think that's supposed to be sealed. So some kind of sheet metal repair might have been done back here in the tub at some point. So there we go. That's one wheel arch fully removed. Inner trim ring, which we still have. Outer trim arch, which we still have. Both metal pieces, either replaced at some point or the OE one's still in really good condition. Now next, I think this also needs to get out of the way. We probably won't even be saving it because it's wind burned. We don't have the one for the main door over here that will be very, very difficult to find. And they just weren't installing all of them. So if we take them all off, it still looks consistent. And then we got this old tape here. I might need to get an eraser wheel to remove that. So here's what we're up against. That pretty much confirms that that's definitely body filler. Body filler in most cases shouldn't be that thick, so they never finish pulling the steel back out. Call it a hunch, but just looking at some of that right there, that looks like poor quality body filler as well, so I'm betting everything along here was redone. But let's see how far the rust actually extends. This stuff usually breaks loose wherever there's either a vibration or loose rust, so. Well, the good news is I might have gotten it this early enough that it won't be too serious of a repair. I mean, short of doing major sheet metal work, it's going to have to be filled again. It looks like the filler was actually mixed and applied fairly well, and it's just starting to break loose where it cracked on a stress joint and then water started getting under it and rusting it away as it does. It's more work than I was hoping to do on the body, but it is salvageable. Well, now this is interesting. I really thought that the check strap was completely gone out of this door, but I see it hiding down in there, just with the roll pin missing, which incidentally fell out of the fender last night. So, let's see if we can actually pull this thing out of the door. There it is. Still feels like it's spring-loaded. Oh yeah, wow. Okay. Let's go get ourselves a board and a longer screwdriver maybe. Oh, all kinds of fun little mysteries on this vehicle. There we go. Okay, so that's how the roll pin's gonna go in. Okay. No, I think that's it. Yeah. Means we just need to get a pliers or maybe a small hammer and finish setting that. Sweet. That takes care of another one of the random mysteries about this vehicle I couldn't put my finger on. Start with the heavy duty wheel here and just see how much busts up. I almost feel bad for even showing you some of this. There's almost nothing there other than the dent. If it had been properly pulled out and painted over directly, it'd probably be just fine. Well, the good news is I'm already hitting metal here, so this fill is probably just in this area mostly. It's looking pretty clean. I'm not seeing any glimmers of rust popping out at me. Well, we're pretty cleaned up now, but in order for paint to stick on the areas adjacent to the area being painted right now, you need to do this. Okay, back to the tried and true rust reformer. This has an acid conversion in it, so hopefully any little bits of remaining rust in there will be captured by this. And I am going to use a shield as I spray. And then once it's dry, we can come back and hit it again. Our last step for tonight is going to be very expensive, but given the area I'm trying to seal, I think it's worth it. This is by Eastwood. This is a 2K epoxy primer. Push that in down there in order to release the second compound into the first. That's what this little cap here is for. Once it does that, you've broken the seal. It also has that fan spray, so it comes out more like a paint gun. Looks good. Whew, and it goes around. Well, that's about as thick as it can go, I think. Later we'll come back and feather sand that and do all the touch-up painting down here, but that's going to be good enough for now. But yeah, glad the rust wasn't worse than that. Hopefully we have stopped it. Well, that's just a bad splice. Really bad splice. One fine spring afternoon, I took the vehicle to the local recycling center. Not to drop it off, although that option climbed the list when a crank no start occurred in the parking lot not far from the scrap metal bin. Following a flat toe behind a Honda, in hope that the former's good example might be observed by the latter.
Oh, I think I totally broke another wire harness. drama queen.
Teacher's pet.
That episode was eventually traced to a faulty cam position sensor, also known as the other CPS. But in the process of combing the engine bay wiring, I discovered a flaky repair at the ignition noise suppression capacitor. Okay. The capacitor lives on the cold side of the block, somewhat below the coil pack. It is often found on 2000 and 2001 model XJs to offset high-frequency interference from the coil pack ignition. That noise can otherwise show up in the audio system, particularly when listening to AM radio. Since the goal here was a stock plus restoration, and not many 4.0 XJs ever had this feature, locating the missing harness plug was looking like a challenge. But, as it happens, this feature also appeared in the coil pack ignition variants of the 4.0-liter TJ Wranglers and Grand Cherokees. So, after a bit of eBay searching, I finally turned up another capacitor that was being sold with a cut harness pigtail still attached, and spliced it into place. While this was not a pressing issue, easy fixes are a nice reward to peel out of the sticker book in between, for example, rust repairs. Click. One more random problem fixed. Next up, we will start looking into why this is missing a couple of these bolts. Interesting. Should be able to get a couple more like that over at Ace. Alright, let's pull together 4 of these. So that is a type of lock washer and a flat washer. Let's see if I can actually get that in there. It's supposed to be the same thread. It's an M8 by 1.25, 70 millimeters long. There's one. I was hoping for black oxide, but those didn't seem to be available. That's 3. There it is. It works and it looks good, and it fixes another one of those long-term problems that I was finding in here because, again, this was a project vehicle before I got it. And speaking of, I decided the passenger quarter behind the door would have to last a year or so while more pressing needs got tended. So, it was a good place to practice filler technique. Although body filler is normally applied to bare metal, the thin coat of rust-converting primer and epoxy overcoat had a fairly stiff grip and provided a good enough application surface for a premium metallized filler I found at a local parts store. I went ahead and repaired the main hole with the metallized filler and then attempted to smooth over it with glazing putty. But the outdoor temperatures didn't cooperate across that week, and I ended up doing makeshift work with a space heater. But later, the interior panels did come out, and now there's a much better view of the repair zone. Down the road, I'll be coming back in here and trying to level the metal from the inside before doing an appropriately thinner repair coat. More to come on that. But for now, it was sealed up with a couple coats of Duplicolor's PB7 or PBT Patriot Blue Metallic, which is a surprisingly good match to the stock color. Well, there you go, another episode of XJ2 gone by. I'm going to wrap this one a little bit early without getting to the repairs on the passenger door because you've seen enough bodywork for this episode, and that stuff can get tedious. We will have to do some special cutting and refilling down there since I'm not going to try and weld in a steel patch. Should be interesting, but we'll save that for later. In the meantime, we got the bulk of that lower quarter temporarily repaired. It should last the year that we need before we can actually hammer it out properly, and a few other miscellaneous items taken care of in the engine bay and body. So, good progress, long ways to go, but we're starting to see some improvements. Also, please ignore this repaired seat. You can't see that, it doesn't exist yet. Thanks for joining me again today on this big renovation effort, and we'll see where the next one goes. Has anyone seen my phone?